Well, hello everyone. It's great to see you. My name is Mike the CPA. Welcome to Money in Life TV. On this channel, we're all about helping you learn finances, investing, taxes, and more. And boy, do we have a tax video for you today. As promised, I told you guys, following the new W-4, there were some major changes coming in the last video. So I've been watching the IRS website like a hawk, like a damn hawk, waiting for this new draft form to finally come out, and it finally did. So what we're gonna do in this video is we're gonna look at this draft form, what it's looking like, how it might impact you. Now, if you wanna support the channel, just do me a huge favor and drop a like, especially if you enjoy the information. And please share this information with your friends, because a lot of people don't know about these upcoming changes, especially when it comes to taxes. So please share this with others. I would really appreciate it. After seeing this new draft form, I realized it actually isn't as bad as I was originally thinking. Knowing what I know now, I think I over-exaggerated a little bit in the last video. Not intentionally, of course, but I think I was overly pessimistic about the information, but now that I see it, it's really, there's definitely some major changes, but it's not as bad as I originally thought. So let's cover it. Now, this is on the IRS website. You can go to the IRS draft forms and search W-4, and that's where you're going to find this information. Now, believe it or not, the IRS actually met their deadline. In fact, they said it was going to come out on May 31st. And it came out on May 30th. Good job, IRS. Good job. So this, if you open it up on their website, which you can see the link up here, the address, you can find this. And if you have any comments to leave with the commissioner about the form that you're going to look at, if you have any suggestions, obviously you're probably thinking, well, this is where I can email the person to tell them to go to hell. I'm sure they get plenty of comments like that. But if you want to email them on anything specifically about the form, then this is where you would do that and you would provide your input there. They anticipate there could be a few more changes to this thing, so this is not the final draft, because it sounds like they might release a new one in summer. If you read this, it says somewhere in here, it says we will post a new draft this summer. So we'll see how that changes. And if there's any significant changes to this draft, I'll make a video on it so that you guys can stay up to date on this topic. Okay, so here's what the form looks like. Let's go down here and take a look. This is probably going to come out, if I were to guess, probably in January of next year, maybe February of next year. I'm not sure yet. Not sure. But this is what it looks like. So a lot of it's the same, and I would say about half of it's the same as the old one, and about half of it's different, from a quick glance. So obviously up here, just like your normal W-4, you're gonna put your name, your address information, your filing status, if you're single, married, head of household, married filing jointly, whatever it may be. It then says complete steps 2 through 4 if they apply to you, otherwise skip to step 5. See instructions on page 2. So in this video, since it's just a draft, I'm not gonna worry about filling this out. I don't think it warrants us looking at that at this point until it's all done. Once it's all done, then I can make a video specifically showing you how to fill this stuff out. But until that point, we're just gonna take a quick look at this. So, because in the instructions we're going to look at, it's going to cover if you have more than one job. So maybe you have 2 different jobs. Maybe your spouse has a job, so maybe that's 3 jobs, or whatever it may be. But it talks about that more in detail in the instructions. But here is the meat and potatoes of this form. Is right in lines 3 through 5 is the meat and potatoes of this new draft form. So this first part, I like this first part on line 3. It's really dealing with the child tax credit. So it says if your income will be $200,000 or less, $400,000 or less if married filing jointly, then you're going to be putting here whether or not you can claim the child tax credit. So if you remember, and I have a video that lays out the specific rules of the child tax credit, that if your child's under the age of 17, you can get up to a $2,000 credit per child, which is huge. It's a huge tax savings, which is great. And if you have a child who's over the age of 17, well, you can still get up to a $500 tax credit if they're between the ages of 18 and 23, if they're a full-time student. So there's that. So you would enter that information here, as it would say. And then the big issue that I was uncertain about, based on what I was reading in the public, just like news coming out about these new W-4 changes, is I heard the IRS was going to be actively wanting people to list out their other forms of income on their W-4, which is, really violates a lot of privacy issues, because if you have other incomes from interest, dividends, or, if it's significant, or if you have income from a self-employment, then, that gets a little dicey if you're handing over this information to your employer. Would you really want your employer to see that you have other forms of income? Because like I said in my last video, they're going to look at that, and they're probably would nerf any salary increase you would get if they see you have all these other forms of income. They'll say, oh, you're not hurting that bad. So on 4A, it says, if you have other income, if you want tax withheld from other income you expect this year, that will not have withholding. Remember, your wages, unless you're exempt, are required to have tax withholdings on it. But interest, dividends, capital gains from stock sales, retirement income, pension income, or income from self-employment, then that normally you're not forced to withhold on that. You still have to pay taxes on that income, but you're not really required to withhold money on that unless you choose to do so. As this says right here, it says, other forms of income. This may include interest, dividends, retirement income. So like from your IRA, your 401k, if you're taking distributions and still working, it says you should not include income from any jobs. And when they say jobs, they specifically mean jobs if you have more than one form of employment, okay? They're not talking about if you have a side business. That's different. That's not a job. That's your side business, okay? Now, I will tell you right now, most people, in terms of interest and dividends, most people in this country have very, very insignificant amounts of those forms of income. So for the majority of people, nothing's really going to change. This is not going to impact them very much. Your employer might ask you to fill out this new form when it becomes available, when it's finalized sometime next year, or they might not. They might say, well, because your employer, if nothing's really changed, they'll give you the option to fill out one of these new W-4s. But, they already know your wages. They're your employer. They already know what you're making. You don't have to go and tell them how little you're making. They already know. But if you want to put, your total interest income you think you'll make for the year, total dividend income, total retirement income, you would lump that all into one number right here. That's basically what that's saying. And now, what about business income? What if you have some side hustle? Well, we're going to go through the instructions in just a second. I'll show you. You're actually not required to put that on here. And I don't think people would anyways, to be honest. Why would you tell your employer that you have other forms of income? And with this other income right here that we're looking at, you really don't even have, if you don't want to, you still don't even have to list your interest, your total dividends that you think you'll make for the year. You don't have to put it down there if you don't want to. You can leave that blank, or you could put zero there if you want. Because there's another way to pay those taxes called estimated tax payments, which I'll talk about in a little bit, that will cover you without giving that info to your employer. On 4B, you guys can read this if you have other deductions that you're claiming other than the standard deduction. Maybe there's other tax credits. Maybe you have adjustments to your gross income, like maybe you're contributing money to your IRA. So maybe there's other deductions like that are taking place that you would list those total other deductions here if you roughly know what they're going to be. And it says if you want to withhold an additional amount per pay period or per check on line 4C, that's where you would put that. They had that same exact feature on the old W-4. So there's nothing new there. And if you're exempt on line 4D, you can claim exempt, so no taxes withheld if this describes you. It says you can claim an exemption from withholding for 2020. For 2019, you had no federal income tax liability, which means that you had no taxes due at all. And for 2020, you expect to have no federal income tax liability. So if that describes you, if you think that's you or it's going to be you, then you can have zero money withheld from your paycheck if you choose to do so. But you have to be careful with that, because if later on during the year that changes, well, then you're still going to have to pay that tax come April 15th of the following year. So you just have to, if you're going to do exempt, if you're going to claim an exemption, you just want to make sure that your income's actually going to play out that way before you do that. So right now, what I would like to do is I'm going to take you over to the instructions. We're going to look at 4A, and we're going to see what it says about other income, because I'm going to show you how you can legally avoid having any issues with this stuff and getting around any privacy concerns you might have had. Oh, and by the way, so now we're on the instructions page, and by the way, I will leave a link to this website directly in the comment section below the video and the description section below the video. All right, line 4A was all about the other income, right? Well, let's read what it says on the instructions. It says, enter on line 4A the total of your other estimated income for the year. Now, it says estimated because it's truly an estimate, guys. So if you want to put something down, just realize you don't have to be perfectly accurate. So you can breathe. Deep breath. It's just an estimate, okay? So if you think you're going to make $200 in total for the year for interest income, put $200, okay? It's that simple. You should not include any income from any jobs, okay, which we talked about. If you complete line 4A, you will likely won't have to make estimated tax payments for that income. If you prefer to pay estimated tax rather than having tax on other income withheld from your paycheck, that's the important thing here. If you prefer to pay estimated tax rather than having tax on other income withheld from your paycheck, see Form 1040 ES, Estimated Tax for Individuals. So any privacy concerns that I had before I saw this draft form are gone. They're all gone. I'm not worried anymore about you having to show too much or providing, furnishing too much information about your other forms of income to your employer. We're good. You're going to be able to avoid it. And it says it right here that you can, like I said, you still have to pay tax, or you might have to pay tax on that interest income, dividends, retirement income, whatever, your self-employment income, but you can do that through estimated tax payments and leave that information completely off this W-4 when it comes out. So don't worry about the privacy concerns. You can breathe easy, you can rest easy, have a drink and celebrate. Couple things I just want to mention real quick, and then we're going to wrap this up. So it does briefly talk about self-employment. If you have self-employment income, you can list how much you expect to make. Remember, it's just an estimate. So if you expect to net $5,000 in self-employment income on line 4A, you could build that into this number right here. And then you could also add into your income from your dividends, your interest, what you expect to make in total for the year, if you want to do that. But like I said, if you have estimated tax payments or you want to pay taxes on that income through estimates, then you don't have to, you could leave box 4A, you leave it 0 and you move on with your life. Now, I've been working diligently and I'm sorry for the delay on these videos, but I already have a video on how to make estimated tax payments. I actually released it, I think in May or June of last year of 2018. And I just never got around to filming the other parts of how estimated tax rules work and actually kind of how to go about the thought process of figuring out your estimated tax payments for yourself. Well, I finally got around to doing that, and I'm going to have videos coming. I have 2 videos coming out on that to help you master estimated tax payments. One video is going to cover the rules, the lowdown. It's going to give you, it's like estimated tax 101. Everything you need to know about estimated taxes so you can understand it, right? Because we have to start with an understanding first. And then I'm going to release a second part that's going to on estimated taxes, on how to calculate that for yourself, or to give you at least a rough idea of how to go about figuring out how much tax to pay in on your other forms of income that aren't subject to withholding, like interest, dividends, capital gains, retirement income, business income from self-employment, rental income, farming income, all of that. I have a free downloadable spreadsheet I'm working on releasing. I should have that video up in a few weeks. And so that this information, I'm gonna have it all laid out for you long before this thing ever hits. So you guys are gonna be prepared. I'm really excited because I think that these next couple of videos around this topic of estimated taxes in the W-4 and all this kind of stuff. I really think it's going to help you better understand taxes more than you've ever understood them before. So I'm really, really excited to release that information, and I'm going to be working on filming those videos soon. They do, in the instructions, they talk about, well, actually right here, it's on the front page too. It says, use the calculator at www.irs.gov W-4 app. And what that does is if you type that in, IRS, whoops, let me figure out if I can type right, irs.gov/W-4 app. If you type that web address in, it takes you to the IRS withholdings calculator, which I briefly talked about in the last video. It doesn't look like they've updated this yet, so I don't think there's much you would want to do with this at this point, really. I think they probably will update this to make this a little bit more in line with the presentation of this new W-4. Now, there is a worksheet within this. There's a worksheet to help you fill this out and help you figure out your numbers for yourself. These worksheets, they're extremely complex. I think even for me as a CPA, if you read through this, it's pretty confusing, and it's very calculation intensive, and you would really have to follow it closely line by line. So what I generally recommend for people who, especially if you don't understand tax really well, I would recommend going to the IRS website and using their withholdings calculator, because it's way easier. All the calculations are going to take place right here, and all you got to do is just know what you roughly expect to make and your deductions and that kind of stuff. It's much easier, I think, than using the worksheet, because you can just go through this step by step. You enter your filing status, if you can claim a dependent, and so on and so forth. But this is still geared for 2019, obviously, because we're still in 2019. But I expect this to be updated eventually. Hopefully, it will eventually say 2020 withholdings calculator. All right, guys. Well, I think that's all I'm going to cover at this point on this topic. And we'll just wait to see what other changes might come out on this new W-4. But definitely check this link out. Check out the draft. I'm going to leave it in the comments. Check out these instructions, this new form, if you want to learn more. And like I said, I'll be releasing videos on estimated taxes to help you master that, so that if you do have business income from your own business, from a farming operation or something else, then I'll give you some guidelines, some guidance of how to go about filling out, projecting your estimated income, and also, doing your estimated tax payments or figuring out what they might need to be. But that will all be in future videos coming up in the next few months. With that being said, guys, if you do me a huge favor, if you like the video, please drop a like, share this information with a friend, especially somebody who this might impact. I think this is going to be impacting a lot of different people, and I think it will be good for them to have a heads up on this information. Last but not least, if you're new to Money in Life TV, be sure to subscribe down below by hitting that red subscribe button. Hit that bell notification icon. That's going to notify you whenever I release a new video. On this channel, we're all about helping you become fiscally fit as we teach finances, investing, and taxes. Have a great week, everybody. I'll see you down in the comments. Drop your comments, your questions down below, and I will see you in the next video. I love y'all. Peace.